Hey, Tyler.
Oh, hey, what?
Hey, did you know that Dad's Meat World has its own gear shop?
We have a gear shop? How does that even work?
That's very simple. You visit dadsmeatworld.threadless.com and you can get yourself a shirt, a hoodie, magnets, stickers, all kinds of stuff with our logo or even our beautiful faces on it that you can wear or slap up on your laptop, your phone, or whatever you want to put it on and show your love for our podcast.
Wait a minute. You're telling me I can get a picture of my face that I can wear?
That's right. Won't your wife love that?
My wife would love that indeed. And I think I would greatly appreciate it if I saw more Dad's Meat World stuff out there because I think we have some fans and I think they want to represent.
That's right. So go to dadsmeatworld.threadless.com.
I'm going there right now. Welcome to Dad's Meat World, a deep dive podcast into the show Boy Meets World. Join me, Tyler, Dad number one.
And me, Brett, Dad number dos.
Yes, we are two dads, and we decided to go through and figure out what is this world that we're living in through the eyes of the 90s and Cory Matthews.
That's
Brett,
right.
how you doing today?
I'm cool.
I'm cool.
Yes.
God help me.
I'm doing all right.
Yes, indeed.
How are you, Tyler?
I'm doing good. I got something on my mind that I want to talk to you about real quick.
All right. What do you got?
So you know, as I know, and I think a lot of our audience also is aware that there is a Boy Meets World podcast out there that some of the people that are on it are part of. As I like to refer to them, the competition.
That's right. They are a competition.
Exactly. Now, we have nothing but love and respect for them as the people that were actors, as people themselves, and portraying the characters.
Of course.
You know, for the record, for me, I am only listening to episodes as we get done producing them. So I don't want to listen to something they say and have that affect what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. But I think something came out around this episode as they were recording about, you know, being uncomfortable with the kissing and all that jazz. And I don't want to take anything away from what they had experienced as people and, you know, being awkward and, you know, being forced to do things maybe they weren't fully comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they, as we see them as dads, is they are young people that are going to be young people. And what do young people do? They make very poor choices. And sometimes that means that they end up kissing people maybe they shouldn't be kissing or, you know, going worse. But at the end of the day, you know, we don't want to discourage people from listening to that podcast because I like it. I listen to it. But
and we love the people that are hosting.
Yeah, exactly. Love the people. Hey, if they want to come on this podcast, we'll have them anytime, any day.
Of course.
You know, but at the end of the day, we can only report how we view things from the character perspective.
Right. And
you know, we weren't there.
Right. Our the reason that we set out to put this podcast together was to go back and revisit something that we loved growing up and that we have loved as dads, and to review what was put on the screen in front of us and interpret that as dads, as teenagers, as college students. And you know, anything that happened behind the scenes we can't really speak to because we weren't there, we didn't experience it. And it's you know, if it was rough, you know, we feel for the actors, anyone who was impacted negatively. If it was something that was just part of the business, then we understand that. But yeah, we can't really speak to anything behind the scenes because that's just not part of the world that we're a part of. And so it's not that we will choose to ignore any of that. It's just not part of why we have chosen to do our podcast. If you listen to our podcast and you feel like we are doing a disservice by not addressing that, well, this is why.
Right. Our goal is to talk about what are the themes we're seeing, what are the things we're learning, you know, and hey, does this show still hold up and do we still love it? The answer is yes.
Of course. It is yes.
Because, I mean, yes. So I wanted to just bring that up real quick because, I know that they're revealing stuff about what was going on in the background. And, and at the end of the day, they are children when this show first starts. And again, it's a work environment, and not every work environment's great. Your boss is not always going to be the nicest person, and it does suck. But we can only take it from the vantage point of what are they putting on screen, and how do we feel about it. And honest to goodness, everything I see from all three of those actors, what they do, I love everything they're doing, and I think they're doing amazingly.
Even though Hunter believes he's overacting as a child actor.
Yes. Well, it has to be hard watching yourself do stuff and feeling probably what you felt at the time. And, I know when I listen back to things I'm doing, I'm like, gosh, why'd you say that? Why'd you talk so much? But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to do our best. And that's all Mr. Feeny wants from us, is to do our best.
That's right. Do good.
So good job.
Try.
Yes.
We love you all.
Good job, Will and Danielle and Ryder. I'm proud of all three of you. You tried.
Did I refer to him as Hunter?
You did.
I did. Sorry, Ryder. Now he won't come on our show. Oh, man.
Darn it. But please, if either of them want to come on, I would love to have them because they're all wonderful people and, I adore them for sure.
That's right. We might be good for their ratings.
Not Savage, though.
We might help goose their ratings, yeah.
Exactly. They're going to need us eventually.
All right. So, with all that out of the way.
Yes. Let's get into this episode. We start off in the backyard, actually. Feeny's backyard.
Oh, before we get to that, we didn't even talk about the title or any of that synopsis stuff.
Oh my gosh. The number 2 really fell for that one right there.
Yeah. So this is episode 7 of season 1. Grandma was a Rolling Stone. And the synopsis for this one is Feeny's niece comes for a visit and Eric gets Morgan to help in asking her out. Cory and the kids' grandma comes for the weekend and she makes a promise to Cory. But he's disappointed when she leaves early, and he misses out on a fishing trip with Sean and his dad. This episode was written by Ed Decter and John J. Strauss, directed by David Trainer, originally aired November 12th, 1993, and currently enjoys a IMDb rating of 7.6, just slightly higher than our previous episode. And now we return to Mr. Feeny's backyard.
So we're in the backyard. Cory and Sean are looking for snails for bait. Now you may be wondering, Brett, do you use snail for fishing?
I wondered why Cory thought they used snails for fishing when he's clearly been fishing with his dad before.
You think so. And don't worry, we don't have to deep dive on that because Alan Matthews makes it very clear. You don't use snails to fish. And so Cory is quite disappointed in Mr. Feeny that he would trick both he and Sean.
Manipulating young and impressionable minds. I hope you're proud of yourself, Mr. Feeny.
Indeed I am, Mr. Matthews.
There's a part of me that loves Feeny outside the classroom because he is a older version of Cory and Sean.
He really is. He can get devious.
Mm-hmm. He has no problem with running a small con. Mm-hmm. And going back to the second episode, he could correct Cory and say, "Yep, this is the amount. This is the actual proper amount." But he goes, "Hey, you don't want to do the math right? I'll give you the amount you're saying."
Yeah, he has no problem being a little bit shifty outside of class.
So Alan starts going over the way to send the perfect cast, and George starts talking about the perfect time he went fishing, which in 1956. That's only a couple years ago from even this point. You may be wondering, Brett, 1956, how is that possible for Mr. Feeny?
I am wondering. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
I know you were. The actor, known as William Daniels, was born in 1927. And so at the time of 1956, he would have been 29 years old. Mm-hmm. So in one more year, he would have been the same age as me, which is weird to think about. So when Boy Meets World started in 1993, he was 66 years old.
Almost old enough to retire in most schools.
Yeah. I think that's the reason why almost every single season ends with, I'm considering retiring. Because he deserves it.
He's there. He should.
Potentially in the show, I think they make it seem like he may be closer to like the late 50s than in his 60s. But, you know.
Yeah, he does. He is written a little younger than that.
But, I mean, he pulls it off. I would have never thought that he was in his 60s up until the point that I looked. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's not that unreasonable that Mr. Feeny wouldn't be in his 20s-ish around the time of the 50s. Mm-hmm. And for him to consider that being a perfect day on the lake or wherever he was saying. I can't fully remember. I started to drown out what he was saying.
Oh, so did Alan, because his
Yes, Alan apparently is seeing Feeny as his future, and that scares him.
He does. It scares Dad. Did you scare yourself? Yes, I did. Oh, wow. And we're reminded again that Eric's not going because he's discovered girls.
Yes. It's made very clear this episode that Eric has an obsession, and that obsession is girls.
Oh, yes.
But then we're inside the house, and we hear a certain noise. Grandma's coming in. Grandma's honking noise is La Cucaracha, which unlocks a deep dive for us real quick. So La Cucaracha has no official origin. Roughly the early 1900s. Again, a lot of things are coming out right at the turn of the century in the 1900s. It's crazy. Mm-hmm.
It's a great time to be alive.
Yeah, apparently. Unless, swine flu's going on.
Except for the whole Spanish flu thing.
Spanish flu. I'm sorry. But La Cucaracha was developed around the time of the Mexican Revolution. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I forgot to mention, I do apologize. Thank you. I forgot to mention, that's going to happen all episode, isn't it? Every time I'm about to say something, you're going to do.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
So, anywho, we see before we hear the honking that Eric is teaching Morgan, like how you would teach a dog, how to help him pick up girls.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So much so that she would say something cute and then would just open her mouth expecting the treat.
Well, some guys use a golden retriever. I figure why not use the weasel here?
It's great.
So Grandma comes in. Grandma.
Bernice Matthews is played by Rue McClanahan.
That's what I was getting to.
123 acting credits.
Yep.
The love.
She played...
Oh, go ahead. You got the list. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh.
You're on it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. The Love Boat, Maud, but probably best known as Blanche Devereaux from Golden Girls, and she acted right up through the year before she passed in 2010.
Also, you missed that she was also in Mama's House. She played Aunt Fran.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, 123 acting credits. I could have gone on and on and on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there.
I agree. Well, I'm just saying, getting ready for school early morning. At one point, I was waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning just to get ready for school. I don't know why I was getting up at 5 o'clock. I just was. And then I'd fall back asleep. But depending on what channel I was on, I'd be like, hey, this is interesting. This is old lady. So anywho, Grandma comes in, Bernice. She wasn't expected, but she just kind of arrived. So the Matthews are just like, well, this is happening now. Yeah. First thing she says is to Morgan, which is, where's my present?
Of course, as all children do.
Especially the babies. Yes, I agree. But what's fascinating to me is that she's around enough that Morgan and her have a rapport. Mm-hmm. Like, she's not a stranger to Morgan. and very much recognizes her as grandma, super excited, and, has truly a good relationship, you can argue, with each of the grandkids. It's just she comes, she goes, she comes, she goes. We never know when we're going to see her again.
Yep. Yeah,
and in the case of the show, never.
We will never see her again. She will join the ranks of family members that are never to be heard from again. But yeah, she's her RV convoy. Apparently, it's all over the country, but she clearly makes it back into Philadelphia often enough that she's been able to connect with her grandchildren and get to know them well enough. Because this was before FaceTime and video chatting, and even she would have to find payphones to call from the road at this point if she wanted to talk to the family. So she's clearly been around often enough to be able to build relationships with the grandchildren. She just doesn't stick around long enough to really maintain them beyond something exciting in town and then pulling up stakes. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic there, and I found her presence for the kids and the family all interesting.
So she tells the kids, "Hey, clear your schedules. I got something planned for each of you. Morgan and her are going shopping. Eric and her are going to a car show, and her and Cory are apparently going to Baltimore to get a rookie Cal Ripken card signed."
That's right. Yeah. And he tackles her. He's so excited.
Yes, that's a lot to do, though, in one weekend.
Yes, it is. Oh, man. A car show alone or close shopping with Morgan alone would be a lot to do in a weekend. But to do all three of those in the span of 2 days would just be ridiculous.
Well, my in-laws, they live in North Carolina, which is a little distance from Pennsylvania. So when they come up, sometimes it can feel like a little bit of a whirlwind. And, we try to do one thing and it's exhausting because it's so much to figure out, so much to coordinate. So I can't imagine them coming in and being like, we're going to do this with you and this with you, and both of those two things taking up good 3 hours or so to do. That's a lot. I think the next day she just kind of fell asleep and forgot to wake up.
It's very...
She was probably exhausted.
Yep.
So Cory is promised, or she's given him a Cal Ripken baseball card, rookie year, which unlocks our fun fact about Cal Ripken.
Oh.
We'll get it eventually.
You do?
No, not that one.
How could you possibly know that?
So Cal Ripken's nickname was the Iron Man. He played for 21 years, playing shortstop and third base for the Baltimore Orioles, and he holds the record for most consecutive games at 2,632, passing Lou Gehrig's streak at 2,130. He just wanted to pass it by over 500. No big deal.
No, of course.
His rookie year was 1981, but he only played 23 games, so his probably true rookie year would have been in 82, which, as I was looking for rookie baseball cards of his, 82 was the one that kept popping up. So that's probably the year they're taking it. He did play 160 games that year. So the card values that I've seen for this... the first one was like 150, which is not that far off of what Sean was saying. I did see one that was listed for $327. And this next one, I'm not saying I don't believe it, but this better be the most perfectest card ever, like signed his rookie year, preserved ever since, in a vault, protected. Yeah. $6,750.
Okay, I know collectors, it's worth whatever a collector will pay, but that is ridiculous.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. This needs to be the most pristine, perfect card ever, because that's ridiculous.
That's right, Grandma.
Exactly. Now, the last thing about this that I want to say, because this podcast has been baseball themed, because that's what Cory is into, we're going to get away from this eventually. But there was this famous moment in 2001 at the All-Star Game. This was the last season of Cal Ripken's playing, so this is going to be his last All-Star game. And Alex Rodriguez, which I know has been notoriously considered a bad guy in baseball, especially for Boston Red Sox fans. I'm sorry, but he did a nice thing. He traded spots with Cal Ripken, so that way Cal Ripken could start as the shortstop at the All-Star game. And I actually watched the clip earlier, and you can see Cal Ripken fighting and like, no, I don't need to do that. And they show to the manager, and he's like, get over the shortstop. And the announcer's like, hey, the manager's saying you got to get over there, so you got to get over there. So, just those type of little moments are always nice, I think, in a game like baseball. Signs of respect, because so often in sports, that's not what we talk about. Mm-hmm. So just a nice little moment. I figured we should bring that up,
Yes.
as a dad.
Of course, yeah.
Now, Alex Rodriguez will ruin that once he goes to New York and he, tries to do bad things to the Boston Red Sox, but
of course.
Not the point. I had to mention that, otherwise I would have had a Boston Red Sox fan on my throat about it. So,
of course.
But anywho, Cory asks her, "How did you get this card?" And her response: "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." Or I traded it for $7 and something else. And just so you know, because I looked into it super quick, I just kind of Googled, hey, why did Johnny Cash write that down? And essentially he just wanted to find something that was a dumb reason to kill someone. So what's the dumber reason than just, hey, I wanted to shoot someone just to watch him die? Sounds like a pretty dumb thing. I wrote it.
Yeah, that's a pretty senseless reason.
Yeah. Johnny Cash, legendary singer.
That's right.
So we go to the next scene where Grandma and Eric are already returning from their excursion at the car show. And apparently it was one of the best car shows she's ever been to. She says both Bernie Kopel and Jamie Farr were both on the same stage. Where are you going to see that? Do you have their IMDb in front of you?
I do not have them in front of me, but I can tell you the Love Boat meets MASH would be a huge crossover in that day and age.
Yes. So Bernie Kopel has over 142 acting credits to his name. Big keys to those is Get Smart, the original TV show, and The Love Boat. And then Jamie Farr, 101 acting credits, MASH, Cannonball Run franchise, and more importantly, Jacob Marley from Scrooged.
Yes. And we'll see Bernie in a few seasons down the road,
I
too.
know. The moment I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this guy before.
Yeah.
Eric is showing off his signed arm by Graziella
Tatiana Graziano.
Yes. Just so for the record.
She laughed, but it was a flirty laugh.
So for the record, and I only took a few seconds to do this, but this person doesn't exist.
Oh, of course not.
It's just a name they made up.
I think she's French.
She could be. Let's just say she is.
Yeah.
She's probably actually from Canada, but whatever. Made up a person, signs his arm. She's on the Victoria's Secret cover, so good for him.
Of course.
But we follow Eric into the kitchen. He's eating a slice of pizza, and Feeny knocks on the door.
Oh, yes, and I have this entire exchange clipped for us here.
You mean the first exchange between Eric and Mr. Feeny?
Oh, yes.
If one were entertaining a young woman, a young girl your age, how would he go about it?
Mr. Feeny, you dating a teenage girl?
Not since the Eisenhower administration. No, my niece is visiting for a few days. She's your age. She'll need to be entertained. And I thought that maybe you could help me out.
Look, I would love to meet your niece, Mr. Feeny, but see, I got this really bad case of strep throat. Spreading down to my lungs and like into my pancreas. So as you can see, I'm completely strep.
Relax. I'm merely curious as to how a contemporary teenage girl entertains herself.
Oh, okay. Well, it's my experience that if they can't find a senior with a car, they'll settle for some gullible sophomore who's willing to empty his pockets on a dinner he can't really afford, a movie he doesn't want to see, and a door slammed in his face.
Somewhere in that brimming cup of bile, I heard dinner and a movie.
Yeah, see, dinner and movie is the premier form of dating entertainment, you know. Dinner, movie, movie, dinner, 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 movie, movie.
A wonderfully rich tapestry of human experience.
Don't mock what I am, Mr. Feeny.
So for the record, for those that are unaware, the Eisenhower administration took place between 1953 and 1961.
They're really putting Mr. Feeny in the 50s here and old enough to date a teenage girl.
So one could argue that either A, he's a young 20-something dating a teenager, or they're claiming he was a teenager in the 50s.
Either way, with Mr. Feeney's moral code, he was definitely a pretty young buck in the 50s. Was he a greaser?
Oh my gosh, I'd give anything to have a Mr. Feeny greaser prequel.
A Mr. Feeny the greaser? Or was he a square?
I could... Okay, I think Feeny would have been a greaser.
You think so?
He probably has a traumatic story of a buddy of his getting killed on the streets, and that turns him away from being a greaser.
Interesting.
And he also drives off in a cloud with his wife-to-be.
Okay, then. Feeny is Danny Zuko.
Always be together.
Had some summer lovin'.
Had me a blast. Yes. So Cory's a little concerned because Grandma's a little tired. He goes, "Hey, we still going to be able to go tomorrow?" He goes, "Are you kidding? I'm looking forward to it." Hey everyone, we're just gonna punch in real quick. We just want to give a big shout out to you who is listening right now. We've seen some responses just in the amount of people that have been listening, and it kind of just blows me away at this point. And so we just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you, and we're so happy you're listening.
We are very much so. We're very happy to find out that it's not just us that loves to hear ourselves talk about Boy Meets World and what the dads think. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to give a quick big shout out to my sister who just got married. So congratulations. I love you and thanks for listening. But before we continue forward, we should backtrack for a moment. Feeny and Eric is my favorite pairing in this show. Like, I love their interactions. Like,
they are the best odd couple.
Yes, especially like as we go along later on, once Eric is out of high school, and there's no longer that teacher-student relationship, it gets into a mentor-mentee relationship. And that's where they truly blossom and where he truly blossoms. And so I love this moment of Eric trying to be a smart aleck and then Feeny attempting to get something out of him, which leads him to, nope, not with a Feeny. Which he will come to regret saying that here in a little bit. But we skip to the next day because this episode moves very quickly.
It does.
Dinner, movie, dinner. Cory's a little concerned because Grandma should be here soon. And he doesn't see her yet.
I find it interesting that even though Grandma is driving her own RV and, she's with her caravan, that she didn't just park on the street in front of the house.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know the caravan probably found like a campground or somewhere where they could hook up their utility hookups and everything, but why didn't she just park in front of the house and stay in the guest room overnight, you know?
Yeah. Plot convenience.
Yeah.
So yeah, Grandma's not there yet, and Cory's getting a little concerned, and Amy, she has a crazy idea. Let's do some baking, which is odd. And Cory just kind of like, all right, I mean, sure. And then Eric is just kind of chit-chatting away, and all of a sudden...
All right, before you go any further.
Okay, go ahead.
I was laughing through this entire next sequence, and I clipped a fair amount of it. So I'm going to give you an option. I trimmed a little bit more of it, or I clipped the long version. Which one do you want me to play?
You know I want it all.
Okay, so here we go. Eric came down to the kitchen during the baking.
I got a lot of other things in my mind besides girls. A lot of other things. There's like, girl, right there. Where? It's Feeny's niece. She's unbelievable. I gotta think. She gotta take her to a world she's never been to before. Dinner, movie, dinner. This has to be perfectly orchestrated, or else it's gonna... Weasel! Okay. Weasel, do you remember what we've been practicing?
This is my brother Eric. He's very shy.
Perfect. Look, in exactly 1 minute, I want you to come outside and do what we've been doing at the mall.
How will I know when it's a minute?
Hey, minute ding. Movie, dinner. How you doing, Mr. Feeny, and how can I help you in the garden today? Oh, hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Jessica.
Strep throat cleared up, did it, Mr. Matthews?
Strep throat? A guy like me? No, see, I work out much too hard to ever get strep throat. So, where would you like me to move this enormously heavy bag of fertilizer?
I hadn't planned on moving it at all.
Well, let me just effortlessly toss it over here, then. Who the...
This is my brother Eric. He's very shy.
Speaking of fertilizer,
Is this your little sister?
That she is.
I love Eric.
oh, please. Jessica, you couldn't possibly fall for this line
She is so cute.
and so well rehearsed.
Eric's taking me to the carnival today.
When did I say that?
Looks like your parrot has learned a few new words.
You want to come with us?
Oh, with us? To the carnival with us? Yes. Please come with us.
Well, if that's okay with you, Uncle George.
Well, I think the polite thing would be to extend an invitation for me to join you.
Mr. Feeny, would you like to come to the carnival with us?
Oh, thank you so very much for asking, but no. I'd rather have gum surgery.
All right. So let's back this up for a moment. I think the best part about this scene, and I'm going to say it throughout the whole thing we're talking about, as we're breaking down this scene, we're going to talk about this for the next 15 minutes. The fact that Eric's trying to say, hey, I have other things on my mind besides girl. And then the next line is girl.
Pretty girl.
Right there. His brother's like, where? There. And it's just this ridiculousness of just his brain just shuts down of all rationale. And he's like, I gotta take her to a world she's never been to before. Dinner, movie, dinner. This is the perfect orchestration, or else it's gonna weasel.
And it's just, yes, it is a very obvious conceit within the story that Eric will go from I have much more on my mind than girls to pretty girl let's get Weasel in the picture, but it is just masterfully played out for us, and it's absolutely hilarious. I'm sitting here listening to it, and I've got tears rolling down my cheek. I'm laughing so much.
Well, and I love he grabs. When will I know it's a minute? He grabs the egg timer. Minute ding, minute ding, minute ding. And in fairness, I was listening for it earlier, and I heard the ding. Mm-hmm. You hear a little ding, and then you see Morgan walk out, and it's perfect.
This is my brother Eric. He's very shy.
Well, and I will say that one of the things I've heard through different panels and whatnot is that the moment that Will Friedle really started to find Eric was in this scene with Mr. Feeny and his niece, because he does the hooda, hooda. And just for whatever reason, this moment just unlocks something in him of, oh, this is the character. Mm-hmm. And it's just from this moment until the final, not even that, until Girl Meets World, that this character is just more and more unhinged.
That's going to be my new ringtone notification. Oh, yes. And Feeny's niece, Jessica. This is Carrie Russell's second acting credit.
Yes. Do you have anything on her?
I do. This is her second acting credit. The year before, she appeared in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid in 1992.
Yes.
She broke out in Felicity. Went on to star in movies such as Waitress, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the TV series The Americans, and more, and is still acting to this day.
Felicity had 84 episodes, ran from 1998 to 2002.
There you go. And there was, it was in the cultural zeitgeist because one of the years leading into one of the seasons, she cut her hair in between seasons. And well, even if you didn't watch the show, you knew about it.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think she's one of those actresses that I haven't seen that much of, but, like, for whatever reason, I'm very much aware that there's a famous lady named Carrie Russell, and she's out there acting.
Yeah.
So, yes, Jessica is taking a liking to Eric and his efforts and his... Thank you. And I just love that he's like, hey, you know, Morgan's like, Eric's gonna take me to the carnival, and you should come too.
Mm-hmm. So even though Morgan is kind of turning this on Eric and getting what she wants out of it, she's still being his wing girl, we'll call her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she really is. Mm-hmm. She's going to get something out of it, and she's going to do something that she wants.
But she's still going to do what she's trained for.
Mm-hmm. She is helping him do what she needs to do. Can I have just a 30-second soapbox real quick?
Sure.
In what world in November is there a carnival going on in Pennsylvania? Like, I'm sorry, it could literally snow the day after Halloween and no one would blink an eye. You're telling me that someone spent like a year coming up with a carnival for Pennsylvania in November? Like, do you know how many things could go wrong that would make us stop? I've had snow hit me in October. We had school cancellations in October, middle of football season, because of this. Like, what? And you can't tell me that Philadelphia is that far off of Pennsylvania as I know it. Like, it's not that much warmer.
Well, you did grow up a lot closer to lake effect snow than Philly is.
Fair. But at the same time, though, it's so cold in that time period. Like, everyone should be wearing a much heavier jacket.
Eric is running around in a t-shirt at this point.
Yes. Now, again, you could argue they wrote this episode before Halloween, and thus, if they're in the middle of fall, I could see that. However, they just had the Halloween episode, so to make sense of the story as presented in continuity, you're telling me that all of this is happening in November.
I think it's funny that you're having more issues with the carnival rather than the fishing trip in early morning November.
That's my next gripe. You're telling me that Alan Matthews, A, went on a camping trip with his son's best friend, and B, it's November and he's fishing? He's got some heavier stuff on, but it could be ice fishing for all they know with the way that, things are going.
And that Sean willingly got up early on a Saturday morning to go out fishing in November.
I think they say this is Sunday.
That's right.
That's right.
It is Sunday.
And they have a magical Monday off as well. What is this world we're living in?
Well, Monday could be voting day.
It's Pennsylvania. We don't have a voting day. That's a holiday.
Ooh, maybe it's the first day of hunting season. It wouldn't matter in Philly.
I think you're trying to make me mad.
No.
Well,
it wouldn't matter in Philadelphia.
It could be voting day. What is it? Veterans Day. If Veterans Day is falling on Monday, you could argue that, they may be around.
The more likely idea is that it's a teachers in service day, and an in-service training day even.
Fair as well. Because clearly the Feeny's niece is off. She's going to be there for another day. And so Eric says, hey, I'll see you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And remember, this is 1993. And, climate change was not as bad then as it is now.
No, so it should be worse. It should be literally snowing in November. Oh my gosh. This fake universe drives me crazy. That's very accurate.
Speaking of fertilizer.
As we continue through, Grandma still has not shown up yet. Cory's getting even more concerned, and they are baking up a storm because what else is Cory to do? And Cory and Mom are going back and forth, and Cory has the realization that Grandma's not coming.
It's obviously happened before, but he's finally old enough where he's realizing that she's just flaking on him, and it's not just something that happened, that she made the choice to do something else.
Right. Well, and I mean, this could be the first time this has ever happened, or just, as you're saying, just finally old enough that it happened that he remembers it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's not going to show up, and so Amy tries to turn it around. Hey, let's go bowling. And
I've got this phone call on tape here.
Hi, Miss Hunter. It's Cory. Sean around? What do you mean he's gone fishing? Did you know your husband's cheating on me with someone else's son?
You forgot to call Sean.
Goodbye, Mrs. Hunter. I forgot.
You didn't tell him you weren't going on the fishing trip.
I forgot.
So he still showed up.
I guess he didn't forget. And now he's out there with my dad, drinking root beer, eating potato chips, bonding away. I miss one thing with my dad, and he drafts me for the first available son.
Where are you going?
I'll be in the treehouse. Hold my calls.
so this leads me into an interesting question, Brett.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been disappointed by a family member?
Oh, I have, yeah. I'm trying to think of one I could share. Not that there's a vast amount of ones that would be inappropriate to share. I'm just trying to think of one that's quick that I could share. I mean, there are a handful of times where, schedules did not align, where I was not able to be able to go and do something that I wanted to do with a friend because, we had one car and I grew up in the middle of nowhere. It's not like we could just hop on a bus or walk. Dad had to work and had to have the car and couldn't make that sacrifice because had to work to be able to provide for the family. And in that, in that time I was disappointed.
One of our grandparents just kind of didn't want to be a grandparent. Could argue didn't want to be a mom. And so would come around sporadically and at points would make promises and then break them. And, it never really affected me much. What was the worst was she made promises to my sister and then never fulfilled them. And my sister being younger than me and me wanting to protect her, I couldn't. And hey, people want to live their lives and don't want to be certain things. That's okay. I will say I do have a grandma who lives in Florida that I only see on occasion, but every time I'm with her, it's special. Every time she's there, I know that we're going to have a good time. So at no point have I ever gone, well, that grandma's not here, but this one's here. I'm fine. It's just been like, well, I just get to have a moment with this grandma. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. Now, my grandma's was never going to drive, 2 days, two nights to get me somewhere. But she is an incredible lady, and I love her dearly. And, every moment we get with her is always special. Mm-hmm. As grandparents start to pass away, you realize just how special all the moments are you have with them, good or bad. So, but anywho, enough of my sappiness. Cory's in the treehouse, and Eric, Morgan, and Jessica return from the carnival. Do you have the clip of any of this stuff, or?
Oh, I have a clip for after all of
Eric, the lip master.
Very nice. Goes down.
So, Morgan is still, trying to help charm Jessica. We find out that Eric spent a lot of money and a lot of effort trying to give his sister a giant stuffed thing. And I will say, as a big brother, you'll do anything for your little sibling.
Especially if you're trying to impress the girl.
Yep. Especially if you're trying to impress a girl. We find out that Morgan is just still milking it as much as possible. And then finally she walks inside. Apparently all she wanted was Eric's new sunglasses. So
yeah, Eric's going to give me his new sunglasses.
And then Eric and Jessica are starting to be more flirty, which leads to kissy, which leads to...
He has definitely gotten much smoother since the pilot.
Well, confidence is what he's developing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Alan and Sean and Cory kind of find them kissy.
The look on Alan's face, like he's kind of looking above, so he's not looking at them. And then he's got that kind of smile and that look of amusement on his face, like he's busted him. Cory's got that look of shock and amusement. And, Sean's just like giddy.
Eric, the lip master.
Very nice.
The moment's dead, buried.
Yes, and I do appreciate that Eric tries to say, hey, kissing is not a spectating sport. And then all three of them proceed to clap and appreciate him for his efforts.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, no school on Monday. What's up with that? Fishing trip on November? Are you kidding me? I already covered that, so we're good.
Yeah. So Jessica goes inside, and then this is where I've got the clip.
She's related to Feeny?
Niece.
Nice.
Nice? She's beautiful. I mean, it's the most incredible girl I ever kissed.
Which puts her at the top of a list of what, 2?
Look, making out is not a spectator sport.
Ooh. What are you doing back from Baltimore so early?
I didn't go to Baltimore.
Why not?
Because I stayed here all day because Grandma dumped me while my best friend was out stealing my dad.
Oh, grow up. I wasn't stealing your father.
Good night, Sean.
Night, Dad.
So Grandma never showed, huh?
No, she didn't.
You want to talk about it?
Doesn't really seem like there's much to talk about.
Ooh, boy, are you wrong.
Where are you going?
I'm hungry. Sean ate everything on a boat except the worms.
He usually likes those.
Yes.
Eric is a little embarrassed and trying to recover from it. Cory is quite upset with both Alan and Sean and Grandma. And I love that we get into just a simple conversation with Alan and Cory and him being honest about who his mother is. You know, she's not a perfect woman.
And this is probably my only real issue with the episode, because, and I understand that there are people like this in the world, and I understand that Grandma does love her grandchildren in this instance, and that she loves Alan in this instance, but there's a really wide berth given here. That here's a woman who blows into town, makes these grandiose plans, and flakes on them. And, you know, she's got this track record. And even though Alan shares this really cool story where, you know, she forgot to sign the permission slip, but, somehow made up for it by taking him to Cape Canaveral. Something in that, just as a parent, I don't look at that and see that as something to admire. That you live your life in such a way that you are showing someone else how little they mean to you, that they become that afterthought, that you're willing to make promises to them only to go back on those promises and have to do something bigger and better to make up for that, and to never really have to face up to it or to change that. And even when she shows up, she asks if he'd ever have her change, and he says no. Like, I've not had someone in my life to that extent, but I have had some people in my life over the years that had that type of a commitment to time or keeping their word when they said they'd be somewhere or do something. And I do not feel respected or appreciated when people will say, yes, I'm going to do something, and they don't do it, especially when it's someone in that position in the life of someone like Cory. And I appreciate what Alan was doing with Cory, but that's one that I'm not, I don't like where that went. I understand that it's a real world thing and that it happens, and there's really not much you can do in that situation, but I don't know. It's just something that doesn't sit well with me. Yeah.
I do understand the point of you can't always control the parents you have. And, there's a strong chance that one of the reasons that Alan and Amy get together so early, as we learn later on, is because Alan was seeking stability. If Alan's mom is kind of flaky, probably on the hippie-ish side of you go with the flow and, you make do with what you make do. That's reasonable. And, we learn that Alan's father's kind of a stick in the mud, I guess would be the best way to put it. So he's probably getting these very opposite ends from both sets of his parents. Of mom is always all over the place, dad is probably drinking and his rules are always the rules. Because, you get the sense from Alan that he has a kind of a rough exterior, and it's through his family and acceptance of what his life is that he is making better choices. And just because as we are dads who would never put our children through what his mom puts him through, it doesn't mean that she doesn't love him any less than I think we would love our children. It's just she's a broken person, and I think Alan's at the point in his life where he's like, hey, this is who she is, and he's probably spent enough time crying about it and wondering why is my mom like this. And when my first son was born, I instantaneously had a much deeper understanding of why my parents were the way they were. And it's so hard to understand why your parents make choices the way they make until you have your own kids. And then as you see more of yourself coming out in your children, you go, oh gosh, what did they have to deal with me?
Someday you'll have children and they'll be just like you.
But again, not everyone's built to be a parent.
Oh, no.
There's a strong chance that his mom wasn't built to be a parent, but instead of some moms who just kind of disappear and, don't really care about what happens to their kids, she didn't fully disappear. She just kind of comes and goes and has great big moments.
So the kitchen is full of muffins.
So many muffins. How much baking do you actually think was required to get that many muffins?
I think that craft services just ordered a bunch of muffins. Of course they did.
That's the real world answer, Brett. I'm looking for the canon. How many
I think
trips to the grocery store that they have to make?
In universe, they needed to go back to the grocery store at least once and load up on, another, I'd say 30 pounds of flour, 15 pounds of sugar, assorted other seasonings and whatnot.
Unless they have a giant dog size feeding zone that's just for flour.
Which is possible, but I haven't seen it in that kitchen.
It's in the secret pantry.
I don't think Amy does enough baking on screen yet to see the need for it.
But I will say, there's a part of me that wonders if Amy, the moment her mother-in-law came into town, she decided to stock up on something she knew she could have control of.
It's very possible. And when Grandma first showed up, we saw Alan's resignation. We saw Amy's resignation as well. They both knew what was coming. They knew someone was going to get hurt, and just waiting to see which kid it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, technically, baking could be an activity that any of the kids could have done with her, and probably more or less she was waiting to cushion Cory or Morgan.
Yes.
Because I think if Eric gotten the shaft, first of all, he wasn't going to get the shaft because he's the oldest. But, I think she was ready for a blow to those two, and she could probably talk down Eric off of it,
Oh, Eric would have been easy to,
right.
Eric just needs a girl.
And there's always a good chance that Eric was disappointed by her in the past.
Mm-hmm. And Eric may have already come to the realization that Cory has in this episode.
Yeah.
And very likely has.
Yeah.
Yes.
The oldest go through the most trauma, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We live a hard life.
So Eric comes running into the kitchen.
Yes. I love that so much. Comes bursting through the kitchen. No matter what, tell Feeny I've been here for the last 20 minutes. You don't happen to have this exchange, do you?
I do not have this
That's
exchange.
okay.
No.
We'll talk through it. But then Feeny comes through immediately, and he's just like, "Keep your child out of my house,
Keep
away from
Eric
my niece."
and his hormones in the house until my niece leaves.
Oh, hold on.
Well, George, I don't know what you're talking about. Eric has been in the house for the last 20 minutes.
Yes. Why, George? I love the way he says it. Why, George? What are you talking about? Eric has been in his room.
Oh, but Grandma's there too.
I love that. Excuse me, I will not be jerked around. Oh, Feeny, just trying to get some respect.
And I had a problem with the way that Grandma dealt with Mr. Feeny too.
Yeah.
Like, she pulls in. We know that Mr. Feeny is, he's the stick in the mud, and he really takes a lot of pride in his gardening. But he saw her pull in not 40 seconds before he ran in the house. He saw her pull in and run over his mums, and he does not believe her lie. He is the teacher that does not give Cory straight A's. Have you talked to the boy?
Right.
And all because of that, she's going to go out and drive over the rest of his flowers. Like, I'm sure it's for the joke, but that really did not rub me the right way.
No. Well, that's the thing, too, is like she's solving a small problem, but could be making a much ginormous problem for Alan to deal with.
Bigger problem.
Right. So I'm sure the next day Alan had to apologize to Feeny for Eric's actions, for his mother's actions, and I
don't think he apologized for Eric's.
Well, I know that there's no way that Alan does not go through any time people meet his mom and go, "I'm really sorry for what happened."
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he's got that one rehearsed down to a science.
Real quick, before we go on to further, I do want to backtrack for a second for a small deep dive. Because Alan talks about not being able to go to the space station on his class field trip, and his mom wakes him up one day. The date would have been May 3rd, but on May 5th, 1961, Mercury 3 was launched, and it was the first U.S. Human space flight. The mission lasted about 15 minutes and 28 seconds, and they launched out of Cape Canaveral, piloted by another Alan Shepard. Yes, it was recovered by the USS Lake Chaplin out of the North Atlantic Ocean. And I know you're wondering, so I'll tell you. The rocket was the Rocket Redstone MRLV MR7. I know you were wondering. I know you're a big rocket fan, so I figured I'd tell you.
Well, there we go. My questions have been answered.
You're welcome. I'm cool.
God help me.
So yes, Grandma deals with Feeny. I just love how Cory tries to show, "Don't you love her?" And I just love Feeny's reaction. No, I don't.
Yeah. It's the perfect answer.
Yep. And we go to the end where we have Cory and Sean in Cory's bedroom, and Sean is admiring the Cal Ripken Junior rookie card, and he's making it clear, "Hey man, this is worth some money." And again, Cory repeats what his grandma said, which is she shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Just to watch him die.
Or picked it up at a swap meet for $7. So he says, "Hey, your grandma must really love you." Because I'm sure she does. That's the end.
Mm-hmm.
So Grandma, who comes in chaotically, and we never see her again.
That's right.
Thank you, Grandma, for your service. We appreciate you greatly. And thank you, Carrie Russell, a.k.a. Jessica, for your service as well.
That's right.
I forgot. We stopped doing the salutes to their service.
Well, it's not that we stopped. We just forgot to last episode because we didn't have any when we pointed out it. Well, no, we did have a one-timer. We just
thank you, evil British lady. We appreciate your service as well.
Evil, snooty British woman.
Now, to be clear, before we get off the rails, if this was a grandpa doing exactly the same things, it would bother us.
Oh, totally.
If it was a British man doing the same exact things, it would bother us. Like, it's not because it's a grandma. It's not because it's a mean British lady. This was a week ago, of course. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's got nothing to do with the gender. It has all to do with the fact of the way the person is acting and how frustrating that can be. Especially since we're viewing this in the lens of dads.
That's right. We would want to protect our own children and their emotional well-being and their connections to their grandparents and these people that they look up to.
It's a responsibility.
That's right.
That a grandparent has, and it's a title that you earn just as a parent. It's a title you earn.
That's right. It's not something that's given lightly.
Alrighty. Okay. So, Brett.
Yes, Tyler.
What did you learn from this episode?
Well, I learned something very simple. People will let you down. It doesn't mean they don't love you, but they will let you down.
What I learned is no matter how old you are, a scheme is a scheme, and if you can get one up on someone, get one up on someone. You know, Mr. Feeny, he likes to run a scheme. Cory likes to run his scheme. Heck, even Alan and Amy, they like to run their little schemes, you know. Mm-hmm. We call those parenting and teaching, but, you know.
Of course.
They are running schemes, essentially. So it's okay to be a little shisty.
As long as you're teaching something.
Yes, as long as you're teaching a valuable lesson.
As long as there's a lesson to be learned, yes.
Alrighty. What grade would you give this?
I landed on a B.
B?
Yeah, there's some good. There's a lot of great humor, a lot of great stuff with Eric and Weasel. I like the story arc that Cory goes through. The only thing that really drags it down for me, like I've already gone through, is just a lot of the stuff with Grandma is just it rubs me the wrong way in the end, and it doesn't, as much of a real world wrap up as it is. It just, the fact that it's not addressed to her directly at any point,
right?
The fact that Cory is so quick to accept it, just, I don't know, it bothers me. So I settled on a B.
I'm going to be honest with you. As you were talking about this episode, my grading actually rose.
Oh.
So I'm going to give it a B as well. Just the moment with Eric and Feeny, all of that is gold.
Mr. Feeny, are you dating a teenager?
You know, the stuff with the grandma does kind of drag me down. Especially just kind of just how it is, just nonchalantly, hey, this is just the way things are. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we have a responsibility as adults, as parents, and, you know, grandparents have responsibility. And as a uncle, you have a responsibility to make sure that no teenage boy is sneaking into the room your niece is in.
That's right.
So, you know, Feeny and Eric, they raise this episode, and Cory's storyline kind of drags it down a little bit, but, you know, it is what it is. Also, just the moment that Sean and Alan return, all of that is just gold.
Eric, the lip master.
And Morgan, as always, is adorable.
Oh, of course.
All righty.
Ah, yes.
I have a dad joke for you, and then we can get ourselves out of here.
Lay it on me, Big Daddy.
How did the telephone propose?
I don't know. How did the telephone propose?
With a ring. So, Brett, they can find us, Dads Meet World, on Facebook and Twitter. Where can they find you?
Well, they cannot find me in Grandma Bernie's RV, that's for sure. She might shoot me to watch me die, but you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Headley Art. Where can we find you if we want to stalk you online?
Well, people can find me at Tyler Volk on Twitter.
All right.
This has been a Dads Meet World podcast. And to all you good lookins out there, book 'em good looking.
See you next time, good looking. You can find Dads Meet World on Facebook, Twitter, and probably a few other places just by searching for Dads Meet World. Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios, tell your story.
Alrighty. Well, Brett, people can find us on... Are you just closing us out?
Oh, no, it's just playing underneath us.
Oh, okay.
It's like a 3-minute long track. I just play it underneath us. I just forgot.
Great audio.
I just forgot to hit it earlier last time.
Okay, it started to scare me. Like, are you trying to cut me off?
You're getting the hook early.
That's what it feels like. All right, let's try this again.
All right. So.